All right, welcome back to another episode of How I Franchise This. We're doing something a little bit different today. Our guest is not just someone in franchising, he is also a new member to the team. So, welcome, Caleb, to the episode. Welcome to How I Franchise This, and welcome to the team.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so I want to get into a bunch of stuff that you've learned over the year, your background, how you got into the crazy world of franchising. So why don't we start with that? Like, walk us through where'd you grow up? What were you working on in the early parts of your career, and how did you end up in franchising?
It's really quick. My entire career has been franchising, so it's not a long story. I grew up in Kansas. Just the cliff notes here. Kansas boy, so grew up on a farm. Did some not wasn't good at it, but did some rodeos growing up out in Western Kansas. People don't know that about me. I don't know. Yeah. So left Kansas when I was 17. Moved down to Panama City Beach, Florida, to pursue a football career. Was getting recruited by Florida State at the time, and then fast forward, went to Georgia Military College for about a year and a half, and then landed a scholarship at UNC Charlotte to come play college football, and that's how I landed in Charlotte. So that was 2012, 2013, and at that same time, scholarship athletes have to be present for summer school and summer workouts and all those kinds of
Every
things
year?
every year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so scholarship athletes typically stay at school. They don't typically go home for the summer.
Okay.
And we were
That's
bored. Yeah, I had a house of 6 teammates, and, we would go to workouts in the morning, and then afterwards, we'd go up and get a snowball at this little shack called Pelican Snowballs, and, we got really close with the owner there, and after, like, the second week of coming, he said, "Hey, you realize if you just work here once a week, you get free snowballs, right?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah." So the next time I came up there, the line was like 30 feet long, wrapped around the building. And I peeked my head in and I said, "Hey, Greg, you need that help now?" And he's like, "Get your butt in here, man." And so that started it. I started as just like an employee and then became a shift leader. And I was still playing football. But after I graduated, I went back and became their regional manager and just kind of fell into,
Are they headquartered here in Charlotte?
yeah, Gastonia.
I did not realize that. So you was that a corporate location or was that a franchise location?
That would at that so that franchise location. Yeah, that was the 10th location in the company back in 2012, 2013, and they had said it started in Raleigh, and then, yeah, the 10th location opened up in Charlotte, and Greg was actually the, area developer for the Charlotte, like, the Carolina region, and so I both was, like, his store manager, managed 3 of his locations, and then helped him develop, like, the greater Charlotte, Carolina. So we went from 10 to about 75 locations just, like, in this area,
That was just for him as the franchisee.
as the area developer of
Wow.
the Charlotte area. Yeah, he
Okay.
wasn't even, and then at that time, I was managing for him and managed all his locations, helped him develop his territory, and then he was approached by the founder to buy the franchise from the founder,
The whole system.
to become the franchisor, correct.
Okay.
And he came to me and said, "Hey, like, we wanna do this, but, like, can you be along for the ride?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm in it, so just let me know." And so I came on with corporate, I started doing franchise development on a national scale, same thing we did in Charlotte, just and over the course of, I think it was 8 or 9 years I was with him, I was a franchisee with them for 6 years, so I got that experience, led the franchise development efforts across 22 states. When I left, I think we were awarding, like, the 220 something, 230 something location. Um, got
That's
it.
crazy. Oh, it 'cause you and your teammates went
Yeah,
over to go get
from
snow cones.
he's in Snowballs after work.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
After
Yeah,
workouts.
if you're in the Pelicans world, he didn't just say snow cones, it's okay. It says snowball. You'll get rep.
That's wild. Think about, like, all the things that had to line up for that to happen the way that it did, and so you've had, like you weren't, like, 14 years old, like, "I'm gonna get into franchising, I'm gonna get into business." It was, "Hey, I'm gonna go play football," and this thing one thing led to the other, and now you're deep into the franchise game, scaling, an area developer, then, being a part of corporate and scaling it from there. That's a wild beginning into franchise.
I became a franchisee at 25. Like, that was the craziest thing, was, like, I graduated and had the opportunity to be like, open my own location while I
Yeah, why did you so you were doing that while you were still working. What sparked that? Were you like, "I just love this brand, I believe in the concept, I wanna be a business owner." What inspired you to do that?
I was the first one in my family to really, like, go to college and do the thing, and no one really has owned businesses and anything like that, so For me, there was a lot of firsts, and business ownership was a huge aspiration of mine. And so when I graduated from UNC Charlotte, was trying to play in the NFL like every college football player's dream is, and didn't make it, and quickly realized like, okay, I've got to figure something out here. The cleats are hung up. Like, what's going to happen next? And yeah, I went back to Greg, the owner that I was telling you about, and I said, hey, like I'm willing to jump into this, but I want to learn all the things. Like, teach me how to run the businesses. I want to do your payroll. I want to do your taxes. And I think that is what really got me hungry to show people that if you have a desire to own a business, you just got to go figure it out. Like, I didn't do business in college. I wasn't a, I don't have an MBA. Like, I just got an MBA in the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, hey, my goal here, I told him, I said, I'll run your stores, I'll help development, but I want to own my own location. And fast forward a few years later, and there we were.
That's awesome that they were supportive of that and said, "Hey, we'll show you the ropes. You can still help us scale corporately and locations, etcetera." But
It actually worked out because I trained, I ran the training program for Pelican. So all the new franchisees coming in, like true franchise development, like I would, from lead to franchise agreement signed, then I would fly to them, do the site selection, the real estate negotiation, lay out the store on the iPad with the layout and everything, negotiate health department things. And then when they sign, they get ready to go, they come to my location as a franchisee and I'd train them. They would train in store with me at my location and that'd save on labor. So it was great.
that's awesome. So when did you realize, like, hey, this started out as you as a customer to, I'm gonna do this for the next 5, 6, 7 years? Or was it always like, I'll just do it for a little bit and then I'll go work at the bank or I'll go do something else or or were you just like, hey, I'm grabbing onto this, roller coaster, I'm gonna go for a ride, or what was the
Yeah, that one. I didn't really have a huge master plan, weirdly. I knew that I had to figure out how to start a business for myself. That was, like, one of my checklist items, and I knew that, I had focused so hardcore on football for the last 16 years, and I had, like, built that into my identity that I had to, like, go all in on something else, and I didn't really know what that was gonna be other than start a business. And so that was what I did. It was the thing I was most familiar with. I was good at it. I had really good people around me and an opportunity with, I didn't have any money really to my name to start my own business. And so I just took it and said, hey, we're going to ride this roller coaster as long as we can. And it's led.
You have a really, like, interesting perspective. You were a customer, you worked in a franchise as, like, a, very entry level role, all the way to helping develop a franchisee system to 60 plus locations. So then, that individual acquiring the corporation and then working on a corporate, level, scaling these out nationally, training, like, you've seen every side of it. You've also, we'll get there in a second, but you've been a consultant, you've seen the brokerage world. How has all of this shaped your view on franchising as a whole, and, like, what keeps you wanting to be in this arena of franchising?
Such a good question. There's two sides to the coin here, and a large part of like the what makes you want to keep doing it is because I know there are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people out there that have been or are in the same shoes that I was in. And franchising at the core is a vehicle that's built for somebody that either doesn't know what to do or knows how hard it is and doesn't want to fail in starting a business. And through all of my experiences, I've seen the franchise industry from every angle, from the best angles, from the worst angles. And so my core why and why I'm doing what I'm doing is to make sure that people are fully aware of what it takes to be successful as a franchisee and make sure that they ask all the right questions and do all the proper due diligence to make sure they have the highest likelihood chance to find success in this next chapter of their life. Uh, because I've seen, again, the best and the worst cases of what happens if you don't do those things. And it doesn't cost people money to do the right things. They just are ignorant to the knowledge of searching for it.
No, I think it does put you in, like, a really, I don't know, unique position to help people do that because you've seen it, you've lived it, you've been an owner, you've been in corporate, you've been an employee of a location, you've seen it all, and I think that that's really rare. And it's cool that you have that passion, that drive to help others with that knowledge. So I think, with that, eventually the Pelican journey, the snowball journey ended. What was next after that? You got into some development, right?
Yeah, so I went, and worked at a brand called ISI Elite Training, boutique fitness franchise, that was a really eye-opening experience for me, because I didn't, at that point in time in my career, have any experience in the, like, franchise broker, franchise consultant networks in the industry. So at
So you
Pel
guys did Pelican all organic.
Yeah, so that's the other part. Pelican's growth was 100% organic.
Wow.
We never spent a dime on lead generation. We never bought a lead. We never paid a broker or consultant. It was 100% organic. And so that was a very unique, and I'm learning now, not very common pathway for franchisors to grow. And so when I went to ISI Elite Training, it was this whole world of, they were in a handful of different broker networks and had to learn how to, they call frick and frack in the industry, how to work with consultants and brokers and how to do lead generation in those and manage large spends for budgets, for marketing lead generation. So that was a huge exposure for me in my career that I learned so much in.
Yeah. And when you saw that side, I mean, you've worked with a number of brands, both internally as a consultant. What stands out about the brands that you think get franchising right? They build good systems. They have the long term in mind. What separates those brands from the rest?
Um, there's two ways that I've seen franchise brands grow, and not I wouldn't say that either which one is right or wrong, but there has to be a core intent that is true. And that core intent needs to be that they are franchisee success focused. There are franchisor brands that they sell a lot up front, and once they collect the franchise fees, then they start to build out the infrastructure and support. So they're selling an idea and a vision so that they can raise to reinvest into infrastructure. Or there are franchisors that say, "Hey, we need to build something that's worth somebody investing into, and then go sell that to grow from the franchisee development side of things." I don't think any one of those is right or wrong. I think they're both viable because I've seen good brands on both sides of the coin. I just think that they have to have, again, the core focus of either way we go, we have to make sure that the most important thing is our franchisee success, right?
Profitability and
Correct.
you know,
Unit level economics.
and then on the client side, on people, buying into franchise systems, you've talked to probably hundreds at this point across ISI, Pelican, your time as a franchise consultant. What is it about the best candidates or, individuals coming through that make them really good operators and have a higher chance of success than the others? Is there a quality, a characteristic, a work ethic? What is it about the ones that you see to go on be successful that you think made them successful? Is it the right brand and a good picker?
I think overall there are a few characteristics, but if I was to whittle it down to one, it is intention. When you talk to somebody that comes in and you're on a first call with them, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't really know like if business is for me, but I'm exploring, and that's fine." That generally is kind of like a lukewarm franchisee typically, right? That's the reason you see an FTD and there's always a top 10%, a bottom 10%, and then the middle, right? And so the top performers that I've seen are always the ones that come in with very serious intention. Like I'm going to own a business. This is the research that I'm trying to do. These are my non-negotiables and my decision criteria for this to be a good thing or bad thing for me. And those are the people that come in as a franchisee and typically execute at a high level, right? Not to say that anybody else can't be successful. However, there's a lot of times people that are kind of wrestling with this career transition pivot that happens. Like they either own another business or they have a career they're trying to run alongside starting their business. And that's like is a dangerous place to be because I'm a true believer that part-time effort gets part-time results, right? So whatever that means, that it has to align with the franchise system is 40 hours a week or 80 hours a week or 20 hours a week, whatever that is. Can you give that thing your full-time effort for whatever it requires? And those are the people that come in and find success, I believe.
Is there anything else? I mean, so like you said, you have to come prepared. You got to be serious. Is there anything about Like, do you believe there's, like, a perfect brand for someone out there? Do you think it's a set of brands or an industry? Or because I get asked that question a lot. It's like, "What's the best brand? Which one should I buy?" And they just, like, wanted you to tell them a brand, and I'm like, "I don't know. It depends on, what your interests are, what you're good at, and what your risk tolerance is." Your answer is gonna be way different than mine. And so do you think that there's this belief that, like, there's a right set of brands for each individual person, or, like, almost like a soulmate, like, same sense, like, is it the right.
Yeah. I think that the answer is yes. I think there is a right type of business and industry that somebody should probably be in. Similar to, the career is there a right career for me? Yeah, probably, right? Um, but it comes down to how self-aware are you? Because, like, an advisor, someone like me or you that's helping somebody, we can only help you as much as you know about yourself, right? And so you have to be really self-aware about how you operate. Ho What kind of people are you good with working with? Like, can you manage salespeople, or are you more of just like an operations person? Do you like sales, right? And so all these things kind of filter into what is the right or wrong thing for somebody. But again, we can only help them so much as they're aware of, right? And so that's a large part of what I do. What we do is like getting real with people about what is true about themselves, and then how does that align with the expectations from the franchisor. So I think it starts with industry, and then it gets down to time commitment in the business. Is it require full-time efforts, part-time efforts? What does that mean exactly? And then what are the daily tasks of the business, and how do you feel like you can execute on those things?
Good answer. So after, you've been in the space franchising for a decade, you've seen a lot. What do you love, so much about it? Again, what kinda keeps you coming back?
Yeah, I love the vehicle piece of it. I love the fact that I'm a recipient of this, right? I was a college kid that came in and started a franchise at 25, and the day before my grand opening had $1.87 to my name. Like, that was me. I lived it. And so, like, if it wasn't for this franchise for Pelicans for me, I don't know what I would have done as far as starting a business. Maybe I would have found something else. I don't know, but um, it's the possibilities. It's the people that don't know. They don't have the what to say the ability to fail a lot of times. Like in business and entrepreneurship, there's always risk. However, some people are not in the same place as other people from a risk perspective. So franchising, in my opinion, if researched properly, can mitigate that as much as possible. And I love that. I really do. And it doesn't cost anything to research that other than your time. And that's the other piece I love about it. I talk to candidates all the time and I'm like, hey, congratulations, you get to be the kid in the candy store, because this whole process isn't going to cost you a dime,
Yeah.
right? But you are going to need to show up and get real with yourself and be honest and put forth the best effort. And maybe after a month or so of researching different brands and how they run and what your financial picture looks like, maybe you'll get to the end of the table and say, yeah, I'm ready to try this thing called business ownership, you know? That's what I love about it.
What's I tell people typically, like, if you're worried about leaving a job, a corporate job, that even if you go do something else, whether it's sales or consulting or buying a business or buying a franchise, if none of those things work, you will find your way back into the thing you were doing. Because people are so worried, like, once I leave, the door's closed and my resume's tarnished and I'm not marketable anymore. And I think the same is true for the flip side. If take a look at franchising and spend all this time, you can also always say no and go back to what you were doing. And if the first franchise doesn't work out or business, it doesn't mean you're a bad operator, might have been the bad brand, bad timing. You can always do it a second time. I just talked to another guy recently who he's like, yeah, my first one didn't work out. It was too early of a brand, and I just didn't put enough effort into it. I can't wait to get back into the next one. Though it's like it's a game. As long as you're willing to get into the arena, you can go play. It's just I think, like you said, doing the work, doing the research, educate yourself. What do you think about franchising still needs to, improve or has room to grow? Like, what are some things that you've noticed that, hey, the model is great. It helps people get a head start, not a shortcut, but hey, the branding is done, the website is done, the model is kind of proven a little bit. It gets you that head start, puts you on square three instead of square one in a lot of ways. What parts of the model do you think can be, improved upon the franchise model?
That's a great question. I think in my opinion, a lot of the improvement needs to happen on the brand, the early on brand discovery process. Because I think every franchisor has their own recipe for success. So it's hard to say, well, there's this a blanket one that applies to every franchisor. But I will say that the franchisee discovery process on how to figure out what franchise to pick, I think in my opinion, that's, where a lot of the improvement potential lies. That there's a lot of, misconceptions out there around, like, I need $1,000,000 to start a franchise. There's a ton of franchises that you can get in for less than 150,000, you know? And then you get into the question of, well, how do I know if it's good or not? And I think that's where there's a lot of room for improvement. Um, One of the main reasons that I love Franzy and what we're doing is being able to democratize that process and not just put brands in front of people because they pay us the most money for a referral, right? Like that's a huge piece of it. And there's not a ton of regulation in the franchise industry. It's not like the real estate or the insurance space or like anybody could be a franchise broker or consultant tomorrow if they wanted to be. And that I think is where there's some bad rap that happens in the franchise space. And you know, the discovery process needs to just be fine-tuned a little bit and a little bit more regulation on who can actually lead people as an expert.
Yeah, as you were answering, I was thinking about, like, buying a business. It's an asset, right? Like, it's something you have to operate and you put time into, but it's an asset, and I can't imagine buying, like, any other asset that's, tens of thousands of dollars without the ability to get data, information, research, objective, information on it, like buying a house without seeing all the houses available, or a car where you go to the lot and you see it all, or now with Carvana, you still get to see all of them and see the specs and what's good, what's safety rating, all this stuff. But then when it comes to buying a business, even independent businesses, not just franchising, it is wild how,
The
like,
wild, wild west, man.
all over the place it is. You don't know if the data is accurate, it's not regulated, but, like, a car, there's, like, all this regulation. A house, there's all this regulation, but, like, go buy a business and have employees and staff and bet half your life savings, like, whatever, just Google search and cross your fingers. It is wild.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other asset of that size or magnitude that society or our government allows us to buy as unregulated as franchising or business owners.
And I don't think people know that. I don't think unless you're in the franchise industry, it's not common knowledge, right? And so, you know, people get into they search, Google search, "Oh, what franchise should I buy? What's the best franchise for me? How much does it cost to buy a franchise?" All these things. Now they're starting to ChatGPT it, right? So even that's getting changing, but, um, and then it's just like, good luck, you know?
Yeah.
There's a blue ocean of just a ton of information, but
Well, and most people doing this for the first time too, like, I mean, and like anything, it's you're buying a business for the first time, or even if it's your 10th business, the folks that are doing it for the 10th time, they know what they know now. Like they had the Pelican experience, they've seen scale, they've started to see, P&Ls, they're getting comfortable with these things. But for your average person, they might be really good at marketing, but they don't know how to look at a P&L, or they don't know operations, or they might be really good at operations, they're ex-military, but they've never looked at a P&L. They don't know the finance piece or the marketing piece. So there's all of us over time start to specialize in, kind of one of these fields or one of these buckets. And unless you've managed a P&L, you don't know what questions to even ask. Like you don't even know what you don't know. And that's where I think, we're trying to level the playing field of, like, let's create access to all that information so you do know, "Oh, shit, I should even be asking that question, or I should even be considering this other element that I didn't even know to ask about." It is just crazy that this is what's happening today. But switching gears real quick, so you've seen a lot of brands, you've seen a lot of different categories. There's macro trends, influences that dictate, I think, what businesses do well and what don't do well. Are there any brands or categories right now that you're excited about? Is it home services? Is it health and wellness? Is it food? Is it what do you see, especially with AI, maybe the political environment, the time and, history that we're in right now? Is there anything that jumps out at you as, like, this category is, like, worth double clicking on and looking into a little bit more?
yeah, I think without a doubt, home services. That's, in my opinion, where the most opportunity lies for the most amount of people. They're typically the most accessible from an entry point. They're the most recession resistant, generally speaking. Um, People own homes, and they always need things done to their homes. Um, I think that I saw a post by Gary Vee who said the most millionaires lie in the electricians right now.
Yep.
You know, and it's true. You know that the services they're not going anywhere. And home services, by the way, are not just construction things. You know, it's there's a vast amount of home services that you can apply to somebody. So in my opinion, I think that's where the lowest hanging fruit is for most people. Uh, the other space that often gets a lot of attention is like the senior care. I can't remember the metric, but I think there's like 10,000 people every day passing 65 or something like that. So, I mean, there's just a vast amount of people that need, whether it's senior care placement and home care, aging in place, accessibility for, you know, a stair ramp or something like that, a wheelchair, anything like that. Those also typically do really well in the franchise space.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point too. Is like I'm hearing some of the, our investors or some of our most successful franchisees saying that, they're at the country club, they're at the groups of, some of these kind of more wealthy, influential people, and they're talking about their kids not going to college and going to trade school instead, and learning how to run a plumbing business, learning how to run an electrician business because AI is probably not touching that for a while. It's something that everyone's gonna need forever. It's almost this, like, Warren Buffett style of franchise investing of where's the value and, value investing, where is the services that are gonna stay for a long time and forever, and I don't see robots doing our electrical or plumbing for a long time, thankfully. So I like those answers. Um Jumping over to you talked about it a little bit with, Franzy and, why now? But again, you've seen a lot of franchise development on the inside. You've owned a business. What is it about Franzy that I guess initially caught your attention and you're like, this is interesting, this is different?
The franchise industry is, I mean, for the lack of better words, kind of a dinosaur in my eyes. Like it's just lagging behind in a lot of different ways when it comes to technology innovation. There's a lot of low hanging fruit on this, which is AI matching to brands as a candidate coming through a process, right? I should be able to, this is everything that I'm looking for, and then have an engine that's built to be able to spit out some recommended results pretty quickly with the technology on the forefront right now. Franzy's doing that, right? There's not anybody else that's doing that, right? So that was the first thing. Is like, oh, this is different. The second thing is being in franchise development, meaning like working for the franchisors. I've directly helped, at this point, 8 national brands scale on the franchise development space. And lead generation as a franchisor is a huge hot topic of discussion. I mean, it's a large part of their budget. It's a large part of the strategy meetings and the investors' conversations.
It's not cheap.
No, it's not. You know as well as anybody what it takes to do that. And so, where do you find good leads? How do you nurture those leads? Franzy is doing something that nobody's done, and the fact that it's democratized. Like in the franchise space, a franchise brand that maybe be backed by a huge private equity group can come in and pay. They could give up the whole franchise fee to a consultant or broker if they wanted to,
Yeah.
because their goal is to the franchisee and the royalty play. Whereas a small emerging brand who just launched and they've got maybe less than 10 locations, they need every penny of that franchise fee to support the infrastructure and growth for the franchisees. And so they kind of get just kicked out of the process against these bigger players that can afford to pay more franchise fees. And Franzy's directly saying, no, every brand that we work with is going to pay us a flat fee, and it's all going to be the same. That way, we're not influenced to show you, Mr. Candidate, a brand that's maybe paying us more money. You just don't know about it and is a better fit, right? And so I think that's the biggest piece that I'm super passionate about with Franzy.
Yeah, you're making me think about, when we scaled the laundromat franchise, we were one of those companies that had the benefit of we'd raised private equity money, venture capital money, and we sold a ton of licenses in a relatively short period of time. But I'll be the first to admit, there were other brands that had better underlying financials than us, other better fundamentals that people, had they done research, had they spent the time, would have been like, "Hey, this might be a better fit for me because it's de-risked, the profitability is higher, et cetera." But because, to your point, we could pay to play, and we could play the game of these brokers and these networks and these other channels, we attracted a lot of prospective franchisees, but capitalism shouldn't work that way. It should be the best concept wins, not the concept that has the most money that can, influence and, be shown more frequently. So I agree with you. That's at our core is partly because we were part of the problem in a way. We were working through different networks and learned a lot in that process. And some of those things are shaping why and how we're building things here at Franzy.
Right.
What are you looking most forward to, in this next chapter for you? It's like it's, the end of one era and you're starting the next one. What are you most excited about on this run with us?
I'm the most excited to get out of my comfort zone because Franzy is a venture capital startup tech company. And that's completely new to me. So I've already learned a ton from you and everybody else on the team. And I'm very excited to bring
It's only day
this.
one. That's
Yeah, it's
awesome.
day one, right? And so, just from the first few weeks, just knowing you guys and working with you guys, it's been great. I'm really pumped to kind of bring the industry knowledge, if you will, that I've built over time to come in and now say, hey, maybe there's this is a Rob Flanagan quote. He's the CEO of Houndstown. Maybe there's a Goldilocks zone here of like, this is how this has always been done. This is how we see it. And then let's kind of merge it in the middle somewhere. Because I think that there's a lot of wisdom in things that I've learned, but also technology changes very, very quickly. And the possibilities of what could be, I'm excited to be on the forefront of like, hey, let's pave the way. Let's be the Zillow of the home buying. Let's be the Uber and Lyft of the taxis, right? Like there's no one else doing this. We're first to market, and we're going to disrupt and come in and be the industry leaders in the innovation piece of this.
Well, like you said too, like if you got the right team, the right time in the market, you got capital to go do it, you gotta be just in the game. You gotta be in the arena. Another, quote people use is like staying around the hoop. And that's what we're doing at Franz. Like right now we have this thesis that, building up this marketplace, creating access to data, the best tools, lending, et cetera, is the answer. But who knows if we go add products for operating your business and your resales, and there's all these other things. It's such a huge market that it's hard not to pay attention to and not to believe that someone's going to come in and really, build software and a platform that disrupts a lot of the way things have historically been done. Um, Switching it back to, working with clients and you coming on franchise, you got all this franchise development experience, franchise sales, you have been an owner yourself. How do you think those experiences are going to best serve those that, hear about Franzy and come through our door?
Yeah, the first call that I always have with candidates is pretty much always a conversation of fear. A fear of the unknown almost always, especially if they've never been a business owner before. So, uh initially a lot of the rapport building is based on these are things that you want to do, and most of the time I've done those things already. So there's an immediate trust that's built there. So I love that. I'm very excited about that. Um, and the second piece is just true, honest, democratized research here of like, there's no influence outside of what's truly best for you and this change that you're about to go through. I often tell everybody that there are a few core pillars of people's lives that they're going through. They'll graduate from high school, college, they'll get married, they'll buy a house, and then sometimes they'll start a business. There's four main things that typically happen, right? And this is one of those core pillars of people's lives. And so there's a huge career transition that often happens. There's a huge life change with the family that happens. You know how it is committing yourself to a business. It impacts directly your family, right? And that's something we talk about on our coaching calls every single time. How are you doing? Where's your head at? How are you feeling about this transition? This is going to impact your family and your finances and all the things, right? So that's what I'm most passionate about is just truly helping people through that transition that they're aspiring to go through and hopefully helping them get to a point where they can actually jump and do it.
Well, I love too is like you've actually done it. I think there's a lot of people out there. This is part of the issue with I think our industry that they'll talk as though and not to say you need to be in the trenches as an owner to, like, really understand this. You can watch and learn and, consume information and you get there, but I can't think of things that really beat or can replicate Caleb's been an owner, he's done it, he knows what to look for, what not to look for, the ups, the downs, the pitfalls, the positives, and I think that makes you a better advisor, that makes you someone that can really give actionable, reality-based advice, and not a lot of brokers, can say that. I think a lot of them saw, "Hey, all these other brokers are making a ton of money, I can sell, I'll throw my hat in the ring, I'll go do it," and they know how to talk, and they know how to position things, like, they're good at sales, but do you wanna buy a business from someone who's good at selling you something or buy a business from someone who's also run businesses and knows, how risky this can be, how scary it can be, how important it is you get the right one, how important it is you finance it the right way, how important it is that your wife or your family members are invested and involved because this is gonna impact them. Like, all those things because 'cause you've lived it. It's hard for, I think, others to do that. So I'm excited, I'm pumped to have you on the team and pumped to have you here. I wanna wrap up quick with a few quick hitter, like, short questions. Think of it as, like, 1 word or, like, 2 sentence responses. And the first one is, if you had to buy a franchise today, what brand would that be and why?
Oh, I just off the top of my head, there's a brand called Puddle Pools that I like a lot. I've had a couple of clients that have placed in that, and the reason I like it is because it's low cost to start. You're under 150,000 getting started, quick to market, quick to revenue. There are high ticket opportunities. You're doing this residential, commercial pool and spa maintenance and service company. So, um, there's regular recurring subscription model maintenance on pools and spas that you can do both residential and commercial, so you can do, like, apartment condos and things like that too. But also there's this huge, big inventory of jobs that you can do of, like, liner replacements and leak
Mm.
detection, so it's like, $5 to $15,000 tickets, right? So you have best of both with a low cost entry point, and a lot of times, like, the husband-wife duo, like, the wives love doing these businesses. They're just it's a fun business. It's got great branding. It's a great franchisor.
I didn't realize they had commercial too. I mean, that's huge. I mean, anytime you can complement a commercial business or a B2B business with a B2C one and have the same labor doing it, and that's really cool.
One thing to watch out for with that one is some state regulations require some general contractor licenses and things like that, so you can do the higher ticket, work, the replacement and service work, but all things that people learn through discovery process.
All right, next one. What is one underrated skill that separates the great operators from the okay operators?
No ego.
No ego. All right,
No
willing
ego.
to learn.
No ego. Willing
Love
to
that.
learn. Yep.
All right, next one. What's the biggest misconception people have about franchising in general?
That you sign a franchise agreement, pay a franchise fee, and then you flip a switch, and all of a sudden you have a cash flowing
Money's coming
business.
in.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Wait at the mailbox.
Yeah.
All right, next one. What is a lesson from football that still applies to how you work today?
Oh, man. There's always someone better than you.
Yeah,
There's always someone better than
that's
you.
good.
So
That's
be
really good.
humble. Yeah.
All right, last one. What's one word that sums up what franchising means to you?
Opportunity. Yeah. That's
Opportunity.
my one word, opportunity.
What's your wife's favorite color?
My wife's favorite color? Probably pink. Pull it rush out. Well, I'm sorry. Don't tell to cut that one out.
Edit that one. We'll edit that one out. Well, awesome. This was great, Caleb. Thanks for one believing in us, joining the company. Hugely excited for the value you're going to bring, not just to us, but the clients that you're going to get to work with on a daily, weekly basis. Again, you've been in the seat, you've done it. You pair that with the tech we're building, and I think the vision we all have. I think we're going to be unstoppable. So
Yeah.
thanks for taking the time to do the episode, and more than anything, thanks for joining the team.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity.
Cool.